for the last couple of months, we have been building something very special, and that thing is the Rad Charger. We've been building the Rad Charger for an ONX Off-road build challenge up against two other competitors, Colt and Matt from Bleepin' Jeep, Nate from Dirt Lifestyle, and Dave from the Dirt Head Shed. Dirt Shed?
Dirt Head Shed. I think it is Dirt Head Shed.
Something. We gotta look it up. So sorry, Dave. I watch all your videos, but I don't know the name of your channel. Oh, the Dirt Head Shed. I was right. Okay. Yeah, so this adventure all starts in Moab. We took our stock vehicles to Moab, Utah earlier this year to put them in places they shouldn't be, on trails they shouldn't be in. And then we took those vehicles and we went and built them in our shop.
Then we took them back to that same spot in Moab to see what they could do and to compete for a spot at Ultimate Adventure.
The first obstacle that we really came across was Devil's Crack, and we were the first one up it.
How's it feeling so far?
So far so good, but this next section is like kind of tippy. Yeah, going good. The brig's heavier than I remember it.
I'm not a fan of the tipsy-turvy where I can't see where we're going. I can't see up that edge because it's a cliff. Not a fan. We hadn't really tested it on anything before we put it on the trailer and took it to Moab. So Devil's Crack being the first obstacle that we went up, it was a little rough, just trying to figure out how the Rad Charger moved. It's not the Rubicon. So figuring out where your wheels are, where your lockers are, and how to put it in low. We figured that out pretty fast.
No, we didn't.
We figured it out after
Eventually.
the fact.
Okay, I learned my front locker is not on.
So I wired up my lockers, but I didn't pay attention to which one goes to what, so I don't know which switch turns on what. So I've got it in mystery mode. So we did all that without a front locker.
So my job today was to be a spotter for Rudy. But first off, I hate Moab Rim. I've never ridden in a vehicle all the way up Moab Rim. I just don't like it. I don't like being this close to an edge. I kept asking Rudy, like, do you need a spot? Do you need a spot? And he was like, no. We'll just figure it out. So I'll tell you what though, I was white knuckling that door like nothing else.
After we struggled up Devil's Crack a little bit, I noticed we twisted up my anti-wrap bar a little bit. I forgot to weld it on. I just pretty much tacked it. It was one of those things that I did the night before we left. I pulled out my Carnage welder, which is a suitcase battery powered welder. I used Colt's welding goggles and I welded it back on. We're getting ready to do the Z-turn and we've already had a problem with the Rad Charger. Hopefully our repair holds up. I think it will, but we're just gonna drive straight up it. Once again, I was just still trying to get the feel for how the Rad Charger worked. If you put it on the right line, it goes right up it. There was no problems there. It was just knowing how it would react. It's such a big vehicle. I can't describe how big it is. It's like driving a school bus. That's what it felt like to me anyway. That's as far as we went. We went to that point, turned around, drove back down. So after that, we had our first challenge. We didn't know what any of these challenges were gonna be before going into this. That's how it is, you know, when you're wheeling, you never know what to expect. So the first challenge that we had to do that was staged was remove your drive shaft and put it back in.
Team Rad Charger, are you ready?
Yep.
Get set, go!
Just a little bit.
So just took a quick visual inspection on, made sure that the drive shaft looked like it was in good shape. U-joints were intact. Slip yoke had some travel still left to it. And they rubbed it on some rock, but it doesn't look like anything that was damaging or anything to it, so looks good to go back in.
It's just not. We bombed it. We did not do good. So the previous break earlier, like the way I had my anti-wrap bar set up, it was holding my axle in the right position. And when it broke and I welded it back on, there was some weird forces on it. So it actually pushed my axle into a weird position and we couldn't actually remove the drive shaft anymore because of that. And so that made it really tricky to get the drive shaft in and out. But that's okay. We completed the challenge though. Despite all of that, our time wasn't too bad considering I had to pull out my grinder and literally cut things.
And I just gotta say, I've never dealt with a drive shaft. I've never taken it out myself, put it back in, and pretty dang sure that I either beat Colt's time for his front drive shaft or I was like 30 seconds off. So I gotta boast about that for a second there.
You did a good job.
Thanks.
That was the Moab portion of this challenge. Day 2 of the competition, we were on our way to Colorado. That was part of this challenge, I guess, your off-road ability and on-road ability. So basically we built this super big glorified overlander. I'd say it does pretty good at that. So we drove all the way to Ouray, Colorado. So we don't have any footage of the next couple challenges, but there was a shock challenge, and this is important later on. They zip tied one of our hands behind our back, and then we had to pull shocks out and put them in the other side. And I don't necessarily understand the point of this one because they're just trying to even the playing field, I guess. And we bombed that one too. The way our shocks are set up, there's misalignment spacers. Unless you have two hands to put them in, you can't get them in. We forfeited that challenge, and then in the end, I think it took 5 or 6 people to help us get our shocks back in. So where we stopped for the night was a campsite, I guess.
I think it is what you describe as glamping.
Yeah, it was glamping for sure. Camping for us is something different, I guess. Like this, like out here, this is camping. And I don't just mean sagebrush and cedar trees, I mean just in the middle of nowhere. There was Wi-Fi and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
We stayed in the Rad Charger, blew up an air mattress in there and just spent the night. Oh, it wasn't too bad. Yeah, day 2 and day 3 were mostly just traveling. We went over Pass on day 3. Black Bear and Imaging Pass, which we were gonna do, are closed for maintenance, and I think they're just barely opening up anyway for the season because of the snow. So far we're above 9,000 feet of elevation, and it feels really good out there. And we're probably gonna see some snow in July. I'm all about that. It was gorgeous. The views over that pass were amazing. I wouldn't necessarily say we had to put it in 4-wheel drive or even air down, but that's okay. Then we got to our next campsite, which was an Airbnb. So our final destination was Montrose, Colorado. And if you know anything about Montrose and off-roading, you know there are some hard trails there. I would consider this the real off-roading challenge of this particular event. Don't eat that. Where we hit some pretty good trails. The first trail was called Scratch and Dent, and it's my least favorite kind of trail.
It's a scratcher and a denter trail.
So it's one of those things where you don't feel fulfilled going over it at all, and it's super high risk. The Rad Charger physically did not fit in between the rocks. So when I was looking at this trail last night online and stuff, I was thinking to myself, these trails aren't made for full-size rigs that want to stay full-size. I don't think there was a way around it on this obstacle, not for me. So that's where we received our first body damage, which was the driver rear corner. We just totally swiped the tail light off. The Rad Charger had no problem doing the obstacle. In fact, it probably looked the easiest doing it of all of them, except for it physically did not fit. So we made it through scratch and dent, and that was pretty much the gist of it. Was like this one obstacle and a little boulder field right after it, and then we were on to the next trail. So the next trail that we hit was called Calamity. In off-roading, there is a scale of like 1 through 10 of how difficult a trail is, and this trail was an 8.
An 8 pretty much puts it at a buggy status.
The damage from when I broke my taillight, the hatch wouldn't close properly, and so while I was attempting this ledge, this waterfall ledge.
Woo! Oh no! Everything is out of the back of the truck!
The hatch popped open and just kind of puked out all of our gear.
Oh!
It was pretty funny.
It was hilarious. So for this last trail, I really wasn't in the rig with Rudy, so I saw everything, and I saw that, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like, wow.
And there was a couple of little options that we physically didn't fit through again, and I didn't even try because I could just tell that we didn't fit, period. But all the other ones, we did fine. We ate it up.
Nice job, Rudy!
I hated every second of that.
It was going good, but then there was like I said, the last 100 yards was the most difficult.
A little bit driver. He wants to be driver.
There you go, little driver. There you go.
Just getting through that obstacle that almost everyone had to winch over, there was still 90 yards more of that unwheelable stuff, like buggy stuff. And in the end, everyone had to winch out of there. And I was in last, so by the time I got to it, I was kind of done with the trail. I was a little bummed about knocking my tail light out. And then the Rad Charger wasn't running right either. Like, I couldn't really step on the gas without it dying. My accelerator pump was going out or something. So I got a little frustrated, and I put it in neutral. I was on a ledge, and I just couldn't get up this ledge. I couldn't bump it, I couldn't crawl it, and so I backed up a little bit. I put it in neutral, put my foot on the gas, and I dropped it into drive. After I had slammed it up this obstacle, I got out and I kind of assessed what went wrong. I had spun my axle tubes out of the pumpkin, the center section. It's not really like an easy thing to do. It happens, but I've never seen it happen. And I meant to weld up the spot that spun, but I forgot to, and I wasn't super concerned because I'd never seen it happen before. So the fact that we did, that was impressive. And then due to the shock challenge from earlier, this is where it's relevant, they weren't positioned properly after that, and I crushed one of the lines on my rear shocks, and so I lost all my shock fluid. That shock wasn't working anymore. I had twisted my leaf springs up. They were all S-shaped, but from that spot I was able to hook my winch to the farthest point on the left on the trail, because there was still one more obstacle left, and I knew with the way the Rad Charger was, the condition it was in, it wasn't running right. The rear axle was all twisted up and the rear U-joint was binding and stuff. I knew I couldn't do that under my own power per se, but it still drove out with all 4 tires spinning still. And we made it to the top. They made me shut my truck off and it didn't start up again after that.
That was it.
That's all it had in it. I think I can speak for everyone in saying that none of us would have brought our rigs on there naturally had we known the route we were going to go beforehand. It kind of destroyed all of our rigs. The only one who got through without too much damage was Colt. And even he smashed a mirror on his passenger side. Nate caved in a door, pretty much his whole passenger side kind of. Steven caved in his driver door. Colt busted a window, and I broke both my taillights out and spun axle tubes out. No one got through without damage. So that's not the kind of trail I'm into. When it's a trail that it's just unavoidable, I don't really want to be there. You know, I got other rigs to thrash on. And in the end, Colt won first place for the first ONX Off-road build challenge, and he deserved it. That guy was super helpful whenever I had issues, and just to everyone, he's a great guy to be around. Like, we had a blast with all of us together. We'll have to get the Rad Charger fixed and back on the road and go do some stuff with it. Until then, thanks for watching. I think it just smeared mud and grease.